Hi everyone, welcome to another video game review. Today we're gonna review SIfu. If you don't know me, my name is Delilah, aka ASSASSINA-san. Welcome back to my channel. I thought my time with challenging games was reserved for Elden Ring, but here SIfu comes, making my hands really sweaty. I didn't expect it, but this is a game where you'll need to repeat levels and bosses over and over again to perfection. At its core, SIfu is just a beat 'em up game, but you won't be spamming punch and kick and eating chicken to replenish your health. Instead, it pulls elements from a variety of genres and games such as roguelike games, fighting games, and even a game like Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. This game is tough for sure, but the more appealing parts about SIfu is the beautiful environments, the artistic level design, satisfying combat, and amazing soundtrack. SIfu will no doubt be a contender for Game of the Year. In fact, it's my Game of the Year so far. But there hasn't been that many games, so whatever. Let's start with the story. So it's basically just a Kill Bill Volume 1 revenge story. Very basic. Your father is killed by a group of people who each have distinct martial arts style, and your character is on the path of revenge. You get to choose a male or female character, but this has no weight on the story or the gameplay, but I do think the male character model looks a lot better than the female. This story sets the stage for the gameplay, where you'll be visiting just 5 locations, each with a boss at the end of the level. There's very few cutscenes, and there's only a little bit of collectibles that feed to the lore of the game. To be honest, the story and characters are the weaker parts of SIfu. It's a basic story that takes a lot of influence from a lot of classic kung fu movies. Is revenge the only way? You get to choose. Even though the story felt too safe to be remarkable, I didn't even care. From the moment you experience SIfu's intro, its vibe and creativity shine bright. It so seamlessly melded the tutorial and the intro together, and it was at this point that SIfu had its hooks in me. My admiration for this game only accelerated when I hit the first level, which is a rundown drug house in the middle of a garden. The other 4 levels include a club full of neon lights, a museum full of paintings and colorful exhibits, a tall office tower with sandy underground caves, and a sanctuary full of hot springs and massage parlors. All 5 of the level's environments are littered with color and detail, and each location has their own vibe, color scheme, and most importantly, music. The music in SIfu is outstanding, probably one of my favorite parts of this game. It's not because there's just intense electronic bass reverberating throughout the club level, but it's because the music modifies as you traverse through the level, so they kind of add a different tune as you get deeper into the level, and then it intensifies even more when you're in the middle of combat. The music supplements the combat so well, and the music and combat are both my favorite parts of SIfu. The combat makes you feel cool. Your character's stance looks so awesome when executing attacks, dodging, parrying, weaving, backing up, and even when they're standing still. The amount of unique animations poured into the combat is outstanding. You perform attacks in a more simplified way than you would in like a fighting game. For example, flicking the analog stick up twice and hitting a light attack or a heavy attack, or even having a combination of heavy attacks and light attacks together in a combo. You can even hold down a heavy attack for a devastating charge attack. It's kind of like fighting game mechanics, but a lot more simple. You might be able to get through the first 2 levels button mashing, light attacks, and heavy attacks, but later areas and especially bosses will require more sophisticated execution of attacks, parries, dodges, and weaves. Notice how I didn't only mention dodging, but also parrying and weaving. The game doesn't do a good job in explaining these combat systems. You'll have to keep dying and retrying to see whether parrying, weaving, or dodging is more effective. I personally started playing SIfu in the same way that I played Sekiro, parrying attacks in quick succession. And that got me through for the most part, but then when I faced the second boss, he was quickly breaking my structure, which is kind of like the posture system in Sekiro, or another word for like stamina. And this is when I discovered the art of weaving, and that's because dodging pretty much led me to put my face into some unforeseen attack. For the sake of clarity, and because the game doesn't explain it, let me break it down. Parrying is tapping the block button at the perfect timing of attack. Dodging is tapping the dodge button and flicking the analog stick in the direction you want to dodge. Weaving is basically holding down the block button and then flicking the analog in the direction that you want to weave. So if you want to weave to the side, you flick it to the side while holding block. If you want to duck down, you flick it down. If you want to jump over a sweep attack, you flick it up. I honestly found little benefit in dodging, except when I needed to get space in between me and the enemy to regain my structure, or if I wanted to avoid getting surrounded by a horde of enemies. Parrying was pretty effective, but it was more effective against big hordes of enemies, especially the weaker enemies, and it was only really effective against 2 bosses and only like 1 one phase of that boss fight. Weaving was probably the most effective tool against elite enemies, mini bosses, and the main boss fights. The reason it's more effective is because you can get upgrades where your successful weaves also build up your structure or your focus attack, which is basically an unblockable special attack. Plus, it's a lot easier to hold down the block button and flick your analog stick in the direction you want to go than it is to properly time a parry. I'm not gonna lie, I got beat down a lot before I finally wrapped my head around these different combat systems. And because each enemy and boss has their own unique kung fu style, I really needed to try over and over again to master their style and exploit their weaknesses. I do wish the game tutorialized the combat system a little more deeply than it did, but there is a training room in the main hub area which is slightly helpful. But even though the combat beat me down a lot, it was very satisfying once I finally got a flow. The crazy thing is the combat isn't even unforgiving because you need to figure out the proper timing to attack, weave, parry, or dodge. It's unforgiving because every time you die, you age. And then the more deaths you have stacked, the older you age up upon your next death. For example, if you're age 25 but you have 3 deaths stacked, the next time you die, you'll age up to 28. And as you age, your attacks do become stronger, but then you'll have less health. And pretty much when you hit 70, it's game over, so then you'll have to start the level over again. Even though the age system feels a bit unforgiving, the cool part about it is that your character model actually changes. Your character becomes less muscular, their hair turns white, and wrinkles start to form. I really hope I look as cool and move as fast as that character when I'm 70 years old. In other unforgiving games like Souls games or even Returnal, once you beat a boss, you can take a sigh of relief, sit back, and enjoy your victory. In SIfu, you can't. You'll have to face enemies and bosses over and over again in hopes that you complete that level at a young age so that you can progress to the next level. For instance, if you beat the first level at age 55, you go into the second level at age 55 and you're not likely to make it all the way through before getting game over. Therefore, you'll have to go back to the first level, fight the whole level and the main boss again in hopes that you beat it at a younger age so that you can go into the second level at a younger age and get further. Thankfully, the game saves at the earliest age you completed the level. So for example, if you beat the first level at age 23, you can always start the second level at age 23 and that progress never goes away. So your goal in SIfu is to progress through each level at the earliest possible age so that you can get through all 5 levels and beat the game before getting game over at age 70. I love the game so much that I practiced until I beat the entire game at age 23, and I have a video up for that if you want to see the final boss fight. The repetition of playing levels over and over again to get a younger age makes SIfu feel a bit like a roguelike game. Me explaining the upgrade system is gonna sound a little bit confusing, so bear with me, and keep in mind that the game doesn't explain this at all. I had to figure it out for myself. Oh my god, actually now that I'm thinking about it, this is really hard to explain. I wish I had a Venn diagram, so let me clarify this a little bit with my hands. I guess that's the best way I can do it. So you need a total of points poured into a skill 10 times. Not 10 points, but you need to pour points into a skill a total of 10 times. 5 of these aren't permanent, meaning that if you pour points into a skill 4 times and you finish a run, then you have to start all the way over and pour points into it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And then you unlock permanent unlocks, which if you put points into the first permanent unlock and you finish a run, you're done. You don't need to do it again. If you pour points into the permanent unlock 3 times, you're done. You'll only need to do it twice again. So unlike the unpermanent unlocks that you lose it after a run, the permanent unlocks you don't lose. But you can only unlock the skill forever, meaning you don't have to pour any more points into it after you finish the 5 permanent unlocks. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know why it needs to be that confusing. It's one of my main complaints of this game, the lack of clarity. Rule of thumb, focus on 1 skill per run so that you can permanently unlock it forever and not have to worry about it. Leg sweep for the win. Now that that's out of the way, let's go back to level design real quick. Not only are the levels aesthetically cool looking, but there's also secret rooms to discover and shortcuts to unlock. Granted, some of these secret rooms only have harder mini bosses that you need to fight through to unlock a key for a door in another level, but it's still pretty cool, I guess. In order to unlock shortcuts and hidden rooms in games, you'll need to progress through the level, or sometimes you'll need to progress through future levels. So for example, I found a key in the 5th level that unlocked a door in the 1st level. But to unlock the shortcuts, you only need to progress within the level. I really love shortcut systems in video games. It's why I like Souls games so much, and in a game like SIfu, it's really handy to bypass entire rooms of enemies or to get to the boss way quicker. For example, in the 3rd area, which is the museum level, once you get further into the level, you'll unlock the ability to take an elevator straight to the boss. So the next time you go into the level, you don't have to fight any enemies except like 2 really weak enemies, and then you take the elevator, you're right at the boss. You don't have to do anything else in the level. But the only downfall to this is in the museum level specifically, there's an entire sequence that uses colors and silhouettes in a really breathtaking and creative way, but I'm not really gonna complain. Overall, SIfu isn't a passive game. You'll need to keep at it, focus in, trial and error, repetition, get good. And if you don't like that kind of experience, as of now, there isn't an easy mode or accessibility feature that helps you bypass some of the more intricate combat features. And considering combat's the main point of the game, I don't think you're missing out if you skip on this game to avoid the stress. The only thing I really wish everyone could experience is the artistic level design, the amazing music, and some of the really awesome set pieces within levels. So that's it, that's my review of SIfu. Let me know what you guys think. If you got to play it, was it too hard for you? Is it something that is not worth your stress? Is this something that you felt like was too easy? Do you think it was worth the price point that it released at, which was like $40, I think? What ending did you get? Let me know. Like, I'm very curious to hear what people think of SIfu. Is it your game of the year like it is mine? Let me know everything in the comment section, but the most important thing is that you guys take care of yourselves and each other.